Wilson. She's in the photography school, and her work is entitled, yes, Emily Wilson. Come on up. Do I just press escape? Woo.
There's a blank slide.
Yeah, I heard of the black slide.
Ooh, Alec, you want to do it? Oh, you broke it. That's okay. The bloopers reel is running early.
This quarter has been largely about perspective for me. Some of you may already know that this is my first quarter here at Evergreen and my first quarter at a state school. In regards to perspective, mine has changed drastically during the last 10 weeks. I got my acceptance letter from the school, and 10 days later, I was sitting here in lecture hall with you guys. My perspective on what exactly an art course here at Evergreen might be like was one of the things that changed. Not saying that I thought it would be easy, but it's been different. What a real working artist's working process might be like and what constitutes good art have also changed drastically for me. Flusser points out that to write a story down, you must have knowledge of the language that you're using and what it is you intend to say. With visual language, anyone taking or making, for that matter, pictures is in dialogue with the world, whether they are literate or not. What I didn't know sitting here on that first day is that my approach to art, if I should even call it that, was lacking a definite foundation. A foundation of visual literacy. I took snaps in Flusser's term, showing any and all events, artifacts, and people with the same lens, the same frame. What interests the viewer, however, I'm finding out, is finding new ways to see the ordinary, the obvious, or expected, or even the especially mundane events, the artifacts or beings that are most beautiful through an unexpected frame. I've been increasingly aware of the vast amount of beautiful, interesting, political, fine, kitsch, etc. art, artifacts, architecture. All of this here in my world. But I was stuck being admittedly happily mystified because I had no tools with which to process or even identify any of it, any of this beauty. I did not question or theorize art because, to be honest with myself, who the hell was I to do such a thing? What would I have even been challenging at that point in time? I just knew in regards to fine art, there was something I didn't know. Now that I have an awareness of visual literacy and am beginning to develop my own, everything is shifting. Thinking about the types of art I want to produce in the future, being able to lay new, fresh eyes on past work of mine, these were evidence to myself of the mental shift I was seeing that was happening over the weeks. The first 8 weeks of this course were pretty intensive for me in terms of internalizing the movements that we were covering. As we moved from abstraction to pop and minimal, conceptual art, I knew all of these movements had their own time and their own place in history, but was somehow still trying to create from that moment. But I was pretending instead of intending. Just as researching Sherry Levine for this project, it occurred to me that what she has done, her appropriation, it had its critical moment, and that critical moment is over. My first experience with critique was on Project 1 in this class. I was reminded of the very obvious but valuable fact that viewers can't read my mind, and that point stuck with me pretty quickly. The one that needed to be pounded in was, and that's taking a little bit longer to catch on, is something that Mary Jane covered in her piece, is that you can't say everything. You'll never be able to say everything. With that, I was wanting to do the impossible and either put too much where meaning was lost or was rendered unable to say anything at all. In the beginning, I felt as though I was pressuring myself to make a bona fide piece of fine art and realize that this is about working through and pushing forward, not producing a great work of art at this point in time. I'm seeing evidence all around me that art does indeed need to be brought down to a certain level to be understood. And I think that certain level is different for everyone. It seems that while I was physically assembling my project, my hand was guided by, in Kantian's sense, taste. The judgment in that being in regards to the concepts and materials from this course. My hand was not guided by self-expression anymore. They were external guiding principles. I didn't like it at first. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel as loose as producing a self-expressive piece of art. I look at my final piece and my 4 pieces all together that I've made this quarter, and they're far from anything that I thought that I would make. But that's a good thing. Does it mean that I would hang them on my wall? Not necessarily. But does that mean that I have failed the assignment? Not in my terms. I think, on the contrary, I think the reduced form of art that I've made, to me, is the signifier of concepts that I'm excited to carry forward beyond this course. The movements covered here have shown me collectively that as artists and as curious human beings, reducing art is a way of understanding it. Whether it's minimalism or appropriation, the stripping down allows us to see the bones, what the foundation looks like, and what we're building off of. I have the responsibility of knowing now. I cannot just create art that is self-expressive without knowing that's what it is and that's what I'm doing. Everything I was doing before was based on intuition and feeling, and now I have a visual literacy and I am not afraid to learn how to use it. Thank you.
Emily's final project makes a reflective reframing of the art that has been created by art workers of the Winter Quarter. Being that her final project was so reflective, she found herself looking a lot deeper into her own process and limitations. She looked back on the artwork she authored and found value in each piece as the constructive experiments that they really are. Through struggling, Emily has come to a new and sure to be fluxing truth of her identity as an artist. I trust and hope that she does not give up on the intuitive feeling that comes so naturally for her in her process of making art.